We've got a final, everyone.
We've got a final, everyone.
We have ourselves a final.
Have ourselves a final.
How are we, Houdini?
How are we, Houdini?
Can you hear me? I don't even have headphones, Chuck. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. You just don't give a damn. Season's over. It's as simple as that. I can hear 9 things in my ear right now. I don't even care. Devastating.
I mean, I had a sponsorship with Bose after we blew this game. They pulled the plug, and here we are, just raw dogging it.
Oh. Right. Here's what I'm going to do for the people, first of all, so I can't hear this. I'm going to go to my headphones. I mean, here's the thing, folks. For those of you that have a desire to get into broadcasting someday, there's this thing called the mix minus. And every once in a while when you're doing live shots, this will happen to where you'll have your IFB in with the producer and the director and everyone's talking to you. And you'll be able to hear yourself with about a half a second delay in your ear while you're trying to give a live report. And it is the hardest thing in the world. I don't give a shit if you're Bob Costas trying to do a report. If you can hear yourself afterwards, it's impossible to do. So what I'm going to need you to do, Houdini, is give me a quick little breakdown of what happened in about 65 seconds while I fix my mix minus and we'll get right into the show. Is Cincinnati Falls 68 56 to Bear?
Well, 60 seconds, too little too late. Per usual, you can probably hear the rain. I mean, it makes sense. The rain's coming down hard here in Cincy. Came out hot, looked great. There goes the thunder. And we should have been up more to start, and we've seen this story multiple times over and over, and we blew it, man. It started sloppy. Aziz got 2 fouls early. One of the worst starts you can have to a second half in human history, and we saw the writing on the wall, right? We should have been up about 10 to 12 points going into that halftime, and we didn't do it. We haven't done it all year, and it's kind of who we are, right? We were texting about it. This is who this team is. They brought it back to 4 points in the second half. Couldn't get it done. I didn't expect them to get it done, but it's a shame, man. It's an absolute shame because I still believe this is the best team we've seen in a few years. It probably sets the Cronin era for sure. This is the best overall team that we've had. Couldn't figure it out, man. Could not figure it out all year, and we had a real opportunity today, and I felt fucking great about it. Excuse my language. And what do? We blow it at the end of the game. We just absolutely blow it.
You want to speak and I mean, good God, there's an echo. Someone that is in Arizona driving across the country. We go 30, final record 20 and 14, 34 games of this, the biggest game of the season. And I can't figure it out, and I got no one to help me, Houdini. So this just may be the show tonight. We may have to cut it short and not have the live stream because I have no idea what I'm doing. And unfortunately, I don't have tech support. They're all driving around in a van.
Well, Chuck, let me ask you this. When I go mute, so when you're giving your little spiel, if I go mute, can you hear yourself? So just testing right now, we'll go mute.
Do I have voices in my head? Yes, I still have the voices in my head. A. B. I guess I could take the headphones off and let's ask the chat before we start this show. Can you hear an echo right now, chat? Can you hear an echo or are we good to go? It's fixed. Matthew Myers says it's fixed. I can still hear myself, though, in the earphones. So what I'm going to do, Houdini, is I'm going to give my spiel, then you're going to give your spiel, and we're going to go. By the way, this is the 15-year anniversary of Charlie Sheen's speech when he had the voices in his head. I'm not Charlie Sheen, but I do have voices in my head today. Anyways, Chatterbox Bearcats with Chuck and Houdini. Final score, Baylor 68, Cincinnati 55. Let's run the tape, everyone. Talk about this game. All right, everyone. Cincinnati falls to Baylor 68 to 56, 20 and 14. The record in the Big 12 ends up being what? They won 7, 11, 9 and 12 in Big 12 games this season. A net ranking that'll probably finish them in the low to mid 30s, which would be the highest ranked team to ever be left out of the tournament. But right now, Houdini, before we get into the game, Do we have any spiel to give to the committee on why the Cincinnati Bearcats should be an NCAA tournament team? Because here's my quick spiel. This is an NCAA tournament team. However, we don't deserve to be one. Oklahoma State blew it. Xavier, a chance there, blew it. We blew it against West Virginia. That's 3 games we should have won. We didn't win, and that's the difference between this team lacing up their dancing shoes and potentially going to the NIT. I say you decline the NIT. You get ready for next season by attacking the portal ASAP. But we know Wes. He wants free basketball. We're going to the NIT, folks, and we're probably hosting.
You're not wrong. I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't think I do believe talent-wise and the way this team plays, they absolutely deserve to be in the tournament. But at the end of the day, we didn't get it done. We had so many opportunities to do that. And if you just win those games, the Oklahoma State, the West Virginia games, we are in a completely different ball game, right? We're not at the 11th seed in the Big 12. We're sitting more in that 7 to 9 slot. And we're in a way better position. You can't lose those games and expect to get a bid into the big dance. It just sucks. It's so frustrating because this team was so damn close all year. We saw it again against Baylor, who has potential to go to a Final Four. I mean, this is a team that is strong throughout. We could not figure out their 4-high zone, their 4-1, whatever the hell you want to call it. Cannot figure it out for the life of us, and we had too many missed opportunities. It was all in front of us, and we couldn't figure it out. And to expect this team to have a miracle run, 5 games in 5 days, I mean, come on. It's tough to see because I truly believe this team they were there, Chuck. They were there.
And we got prepared for that 4-1 zone. I think it was at Merrimack or Stetson, one of those non-conference games. We saw a zone like this, and we actually struggled against it. So we should have been prepared. By the way, Houdini, if you have about 10 seconds, check your mic. It's coming through the computer audio right now. It'll survive. But for those that are listening in the morning that aren't seeing this train wreck being unfolded live, the crisp audio is always nice for people. Anyways, Cincinnati goes up 10-1 in this game. I'm sitting downstairs thinking, holy cow, this is what we're going to air today. And I'm still going to air it because I believe this video is still applicable. I think the Cincinnati Bearcats are coming. However, this is what was going to start off this show. I guess this is our NIT hype video, everyone. Unfortunately, we're not playing it out of the gate. I have to preface it by saying it's a little depressing considering I made this when we were up 10-1 and thought that we were going to win this game. And Baylor really controlled it in the second half. But here's what it looked like.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Why all the long faces? We're not dead yet.
Everybody stay calm! What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm! Wait! Everybody calm down!
Everybody calm down. We're going to the NIT. We're hosting an NIT game in Cincinnati. But, yeah, the Bearcats went up 10-1 in this game. Looked excellent out of the gate. Dan Skillings was continuing to look like one of the best players on the floor, getting out in transition. Fran Fraschilla has a big old crush on Dan Skillings and Jizzle James. Jizzle was adding some step-back jumpers into the fold. Aziz picked up 2 early fouls, kind of shifted the momentum, but Cincinnati still had the 2-point halftime lead. How were you feeling going into the break?
Like I was saying, hope mic check. I feel like I'm on the actual mic right
Mike's good.
now.
You sound great.
Correct?
Yep. We're all good from here on out. We're all good. It just takes a minute.
Whatever. This is the season in a nutshell. Okay, there's only one way to do this show, and it's to be a disaster because that's what this season has kind of been. Going into half, like I was saying before we jumped into the show, was I felt like we should have been up more. I mean, Baylor could not hit any shots at all. Our defense was suffocating. We've done it all year, and we were up 2 points going into half. I did not love that at all, and we came out with a dud in the second half. I mean, shit, man. Once it came down to a couple bad calls, right? The Jizzle James flagrant was insane to me. I think it was 12 fouls to 12 fouls to 4, I believe, in the first half, which we weren't a team chucking a bunch of threes. Okay, we saw the Steph Curry, Klay Thompson game against West Virginia. It wasn't happening tonight. And we were going to the rim and no calls whatsoever. The refs didn't help us at all. You got to be up more than 2 after the way that we played in the first half. And so, no, I did not feel good about where we were standing going into the second half. And then we came out with a dud and got down damn near, 14 points and brought it back like we always do. But nobody had faith that we were going to come back and finish that game. I mean, let's be real. We've seen this a billion times.
It felt like so many games this season. This kind of felt like Kansas round 1. It felt like Houston round 2. It felt like even a little bit of the Baylor round 1 game. It felt like, I mean, pick your game in there. This is kind of what the season was. You were down 7-8 points. You made it a 1-possession game or 4-point game lately. But you never really thought that they were going to get it done late. That's the sad reality of the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball team. They just weren't good enough. But my issue, I think this team is talented. It's Jizzle and Dan's team next year. They got some pretty good players. They have some good freshmen coming in. Their highest rated recruit in years in Tyler Betsy. They're not that far off. You could see the blueprint there. You'd see the stars starting to align. This team plays hard. They found their identity. The last couple of years, they lacked toughness. They got bullied on the inside consistently. This team was doing the bullying. Unfortunately, they look a lot like every Cincinnati team in the last 25 years or so, and they can't shoot. That sucked. But the sad reality is this team was not good enough. This is a 9-seeded team we're watching. You say, well, Chuck, that's decent, 9 seed. The issue is they're not a 9 seed. They're going to be a 1 seed or 2 seed in the NIT because they blew games that they should have won this season. This team should have won 22 games. They should have lost 12. Instead, they're 20-14. They're going to miss out on the big dance. I will say one thing. For those of you that are asking, like, what are the chances that Cincinnati could get into the NCAA tournament? Let's start off with this. That's the bubble right now. Last 4 in, per Joe Lenardi before this game. Seton Hall, Colorado, Virginia, Texas A&M are the last 4 in. First 4 out, Indiana State, New Mexico, Pitt, Providence. Then you look at the next 4 out, Kansas State, Wake Forest, Villanova, Cincinnati. So Cincinnati was literally the last team even on the bubble. And they lose to Baylor. Sure, it was close. Sure, the efficiency may have given them good enough numbers to keep them at that 33 spot in the net rankings, which I mentioned earlier would be the best-ranked team to ever miss out on the NCAA tournament. But you can't make a pitch right now. You went 7-11 in the conference. You scheduled no one in the out-of-conference. The 2 teams you scheduled, Xavier and Dayton, you lost. Dayton being on a neutral floor. Dayton lost to Duquesne today. They're not even their own conference champion. I don't have an argument. I do think that this is an NCAA tournament team. I'm looking at those teams, Seton Hall, Virginia, Pitt, New Mexico, Providence. Give me a break. Cincinnati's just as good as those teams, but at the end of the day, they earned it more. Probably just based on, maybe not Indiana State, but the rest of them based on their non-conference schedule alone. That's what we're going to look back on this year. It wasn't the close losses in the Big 12, although that's probably my biggest takeaway. But takeaway 1B is that this team didn't schedule good enough in the non-conference, and it's going to hurt them on Selection Sunday, we think. I'd say the chances they get in, it's more than 1%. I'd say it's about 2.3% on the Chuck metrics based on the fact alone that the computers like them. So you never know. We'll cross our fingers, but I'm not going to be sweating.
No, I mean, it's hard to make an argument, and you and I both know the committee watches this show specifically religiously. So we got to give them a little bit, we got to hype them up slightly here, but we had it all in front of us. If we win this game, if we beat Baylor, then I'd feel way more comfortable as a possibility that I would believe at that point we belong in the tournament. You lose this game, it's tough. I mean, we beat a Kansas team that was, their 2 best players didn't play in the game. It's a tough argument. It's an uphill battle. It just, again, it sucks. Because they were so close. And you have CMOS and Day-Day, who looked like prime Klay Thompson and Steph Curry a couple nights ago. just absolute duds tonight. I mean, literally couldn't throw the ball into the ocean. I think they had a Day and CMOS, 8 total points, 2 for 15. That's going to be tough to beat Baylor on a neutral site, man. It's going to be tough to do. And again, it's hard when you expect a team to win 3 games in 3 nights. And they got no legs on them. CMOS clearly didn't have it. And here we are. We're going to the NIT again, Chuck. Back-to-back NIT appearances.
Jizzle James and Dan Skillings, they've been a pleasure. Hopefully we see them next year because it's the best, youngest core we've had since fill in the blank. Chad, help me out. Maybe Gary Clark, Jacob Evans? Maybe? 1-2 punch? Like that's a hell of a core you're working with. The chat's saying Jizzle James is gone. I don't think so. Why does everyone just assume that Jizzle's gone? Cincinnati has NIL money. We pack the stands. We're a Big 12 team. Now, I am afraid that John Calipari is getting in his car in about 2 weeks, and he's heading down to Cincy, and he says, hey, Jizzle, I got a gold pass. Let's go to Kings Island on me. We'll hop on Delirium. We'll wait in that line for about 45 minutes, and we'll talk about you playing in Kentucky blue and checkered shorts next year. That terrifies me. But for the most part, I think Jizzle enjoyed his time here, is enjoying his time in Cincinnati. He's got the edge at every single game. I'm guessing he grew up in Indianapolis at some point in his life, not too far away from Cincinnati. I mean, I don't see Jizzle leaving. I think the majority of this core is coming back next year. The question is, who stays, who goes? How does this roster look next year to you? And to the chat, how does this roster look?
I don't think Jizzle James is going anywhere. As far as NIL money is concerned, I mean, let's not forget his dad is a Hall of Fame running back. I don't think he's hurting for the extra, $200,000. He had a goddamn gym in his house growing up. I don't know if he needs the additional cash that Louisville might pay him or something along those lines. And at the end of the day, man, his dad's going to tell him straight.
He's our starting point guard.
Is considering it. What do you want to do? You want to be, option E on a Kentucky team with a bunch of McDonald's All-Americans? Or do you want to be the guy for UC with a strong core of Lukosius, Skillings, and Jizzle? And Day Thomas, as much as we gave him shit to start this year, and he had a bad game tonight, I do not mind him at all. He's one of the most athletic guys that we've seen in a UC uniform in a long time. So I think you bring those guys back. Aziz is coming back. You bring back Jamil. You got to get a big that can finish in the post without just the straight bully ball. Because as awesome as Aziz is defensively, I mean, an absolute liability on offense. I mean, it's tough for him to stand up for multiple possessions in a row. But I still love Aziz in the game, and him going out early with 2 fouls really hurt us. Need to improve the down low presence on an offensive side of things. And hopefully Skillings takes that jump and Jizzle takes that jump. The future is bright. The future is absolutely bright for the UC Bearcats right now.
I didn't see it a couple of weeks ago. I was extremely emotional, upset, and said that West going into next year is probably going to be on the hot seat. Now, I don't think he's on the hot seat by any means, but if they don't make the NCAA tournament next year, I think he could absolutely get fired potentially after next year. I don't think that's the craziest thing in the world if they're bad. Thing is, I think all Bearcats fans are in agreement that they're not going to be bad next year. You heard Fran Fraschilla raving over these guys. Like, they got a good core in place with more coming in. Who does Cincinnati lose? Odi Oguama. They lose potentially Sage Tolentino. We'll see if he comes back. And John Newman. Those 3 are guaranteed gone. Who's in? Rayvon Griffith, Tyler Betsy, Tyler McKinley. Question marks. C.J. Frederick. Is he coming back next year? He has eligibility somehow because he played that freshman season in 1920 for Iowa, and that was the COVID year, and then he transferred. So he only played a couple years at Iowa, then he played a year at Kentucky, and then a year at Cincinnati. But because, he's got that COVID year, he could still come back next year. He's like one of the last people on planet Earth that could still use that COVID year. I believe it would appear that he's one of the last human beings on planet Earth that can use that COVID year. Is C.J. Frederick coming back next year? We wanted that shooter. We got that shooter. We didn't see him down the stretch of the season or really when it mattered at all.
In theory, C.J. Frederick is a guy that you absolutely want on your roster. I was excited when he came. In reality, the guy can't play more than 10 games a year. We saw it at Kentucky. We saw it this year. It's really hard to put a scholarship on a kid. And he's awesome, man. We interviewed him early in the show. We interviewed our guy CJ, and he was awesome. The problem is he can't stay healthy. He really can't. It's tough to give a scholarship to a kid that you can't even bank on 20 games a season. So I think we're going to move off him.
Can I cut you off?
I don't think he's even – yeah.
Here's the issue I have with that statement. We gave a scholarship to Sage Tolentino to sit on the bench all season long. I mean, Tolentino racked up a total of 4 or 5 minutes. Even when Jameel Reynolds and Aziz Bandego were ineligible, Sage Tolentino didn't sniff the floor. So if that's the issue there, I mean, you better go out in the portal and make sure that every scholarship you use is on someone that helps you win basketball games. Because if Sage is on the bench again next season, not playing, and they move on from CJ, I think I'm in the same camp as you. Not because I want to move on from him. I just think he's probably done and over it. He's played college basketball since 1920 at this point. We're going into 2024, 2025 next season. I think he's probably looking to potentially do something else. But, hey, he didn't finish on his terms. It was a rough season. Maybe he wants to come back and do it one more time. And you know that if he's healthy, he can help the team in some facet. But he's not the same player that he was at Iowa, even his freshman year, where he was a lethal force to have on your team and on the wing. So I think you're probably right. They move on from him. How about Victor Locken? Down the stretch, we saw his role diminished. Then he gets hurt. Comes back today. I didn't expect him to play in the game. Played some good minutes in the first half when Aziz picked up a couple of fouls, hit some shots, dropped the ball that Jizzle ended up saving him on by getting it back and nailing a jumper, but it went right through Locken's hands. Is Victor coming back next season? Because Wes Miller, his situation right now is simple to me. Everyone's giving Wes Miller next year and probably 2 more years realistically, but they're giving him next year to get this team back to the NCAA tournament, or at least right there to the point where it's like, all right, the next year, 25-26, this team's loaded. Wes Miller's not going anywhere. But that's the situation right now. He just can't bomb next year, and he's going to be here for the foreseeable future. With that being said, they can't bomb. They can't have another season like this year where they went 7-11 in their conference. They lost both of their rival games, and they lost more home games in the Big 12 than they won. They can't have that again. So what do they need to do? They need to strike gold in the portal, and they need to upgrade. Does Victor Locken need to be upgraded from? Is that a hard conversation that he's going to have? Josh Reed, we've seen his shot lately. He can't even hit the rim. He's a great defender. He's a good rebounder. He plays a role. But can you upgrade from him? This is the sad reality of college basketball. These are your guys. You're giving them a scholarship. They go to your school. They represent. They work hard. They play. They're getting paid now. It's a completely different story. These coaches are getting paid millions. The fans are shelling out all sorts of money. The donors throwing the big bucks at the Cincinnati Bearcats athletic department. We expect a winner. 20-14, that sucks. It's unacceptable. And at the end of the day, they need to be better. If he runs it back next season, only adding Tyler McKinley, Tyler Betsy, and Rayvon Griffith, and swaps out those 3 and keeps CJ, and this team goes 20-14 again, I don't know if he sees another season. I really don't.
Listen, the goal is, in Wes, trust me, the guy, he probably won't sleep tonight if I know Wes well.
I believe he's the guy. He coached his ass off today, and I believe he's the guy. I have to preface that by saying I think Wes Miller is going to be here for a long time, and he's going to be a fantastic head coach. But we've all been wrong before. And at some point, you got to cut your losses if he's not getting the job done. I think 4 years would be plenty of time if this team is not more competitive than they were this year, to at least start pondering the question, is there a chance we're wrong about this guy? But I think right now, everything we've seen, the way his guys rally for him, the identities instilled, I do believe that he is the guy. I'm just saying there needs to be upgrades made. They need to upgrade the talent. He's going to have some hard conversations. It's a matter of who's coming back next year and who's leaving.
So the nice thing is we're not in the same boat we were last year, right? Last year, if we didn't hit, we're talking 4 or 5 portal guys, we are in massive trouble. Right now, we're a player or two away. We're losing Newman. God love Newman. Salute to Jonathan Newman. Exceeded my expectations of what he would do this year. All Big 12 defender, fantastic stuff. We are a couple players away, and I think if we can snag a scoring transfer portal guy, and there's going to be a lot, as we've seen, every kid under the sun who averages more than 12 points a game in the MAC conference immediately goes to the portal. So we're going to have opportunities to grab some guys. We're just not far off. Last year, it was like we need to rehaul the entire roster. We're close. We get 1 or 2 guys. At the end of the day, you want 8 guys in your rotation. You want to bring in 10 guys that are competing for those 8 spots. We're not far off. We need a guy that is a go-to scorer. And if we get that, I think we're going to be in a really good spot, man. I'm already losing my voice. I was screaming by myself in my living room, throwing shit. The drywall, it's going to need to be repaired. It is what it is.
Your voice just went in a second, man.
Spot.
Yeah, it went in a second. Like you were sounding good. You were sounding silky smooth. That's what happens when you don't turn on your mic. You have to yell a little bit louder to hit the speaker, and you lose your voice. Chat's coming in saying, did one of you guys date Sage's sister? I've never heard his name so much in my life. The simple question is he's getting a scholarship. We should hear his name. That's the thing I'm saying, comparing it to the CJ situation. If you're going to cut your ties with a player that could potentially knock down 40% of his three-pointers and lead the team in scoring multiple games, because we saw that in the non-conference. Georgia Tech, I think like 3 of the first 5 games this season, CJ Frederick was your leading scorer. So he has a role. So I'm just saying, Wes Miller gave a scholarship to a guy to sit on the bench all season long. So that's the comparison I'm making, why I bring up his name. But I don't know if he's going to be on the team next year, so we won't say his name ever again unless he is on the team. Aside from saying, Sage, we respect the energy you brought on the bench for your career as a Bearcat, and I hope that randomly you turn into a hell of a player next year. You have some Kenyon Martin seismic jump and show us some big-time flashes next year of you being a great player, because Bruce Pearl wanted you. But as of right now, who knows? Anyways, off-season or NIT? I think we know the answer. Wes is going to accept an NIT berth, assuming that's what happens. Cincinnati should be hosting a home game or so. I guess let's win the damn thing. I am going to say right now, unless the Bearcats make the championship game or Final Four, we're not going to do the live post-game shows. We'll put everything up on the podcast app. But the live on a Saturday for an NIT game, it just seems I don't want to say it's beneath us because we respect free basketball, but it's beneath us, Houdini.
Listen, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get up and do a 10:30 show because we just beat Fordham or something, in the first round. I just don't know if personally I can do it. But hey, as you said, Wes is never going to decline free basketball. You got guys like Newman and Odie. You think he's going to go into the locker room and say, hey, do you want to play a couple more games of your college career? They're going to absolutely say yes, and Wes is going to say yes. And I don't think he's in a position right now to decline, honestly. If we're bringing this core back, you might as well get some reps in, get your younger guys. And it is hilarious that Fran actually said on the last broadcast, we're the oldest team. Remember I said we were a young team? We're the oldest team by age in college basketball in the entire country. We are the oldest team. And let's get even older. Fuck it. We might as well be 30. Me and you might suit up next year.
Perfect. We actually had someone in the chat earlier apologizing, saying that he was sorry that he yelled at us last night for ending the stream early and didn't know that we were in college and it was a school night. I was like, dude, we're 30, brother. It's not a school night for us. We were just messing around. It's a work night, unfortunately. Cincinnati shot at 40% from the floor, only 5 of 22 from deep. That's good for 22%. Day Thomas, after going crazy with the 7 3-pointers, really struggled. He was 1 of 4. CMOS, who hit 7 the other day, 1 of 6. The combined 2 for 10. That's not going to get it done. John Newman, in his last Big 12 game, 12 points, 6 rebounds. He played well for Cincinnati. Skillings led the way with 15. Jizzle James had 12. Jameel Reynolds had 5. Victor Locken had 4. 3 for Day Thomas, and 5 for CMOS Lukosius. On the other side, Cincinnati held Baylor to just 39% shooting. 5 of 19 from deep, that's 26%. Baylor dominated Cincinnati on the glass. We haven't heard that much this year. 39-28, the final tally in favor of the Baylor Bears. But UC showed their flashes defensively, man. Holding Baylor to 68 is impressive. They're a top 5 offensive team in the country. They held them without a field goal for the first 8 minutes of the game. But in the second half, you mentioned it, Baylor had that stretch where they hit 7 straight shots, went up 14, and never really looked back despite Cincinnati making it a game. Only thing left to do, let's switch this topic all the way down to number 4. That is Save Us Scott. This season's most likely over unless we get that miracle on Selection Sunday. We'll try to win the NIT. We won't hang up the banner. The athletic department will. I won't personally. I won't celebrate the NIT. But, I mean, it's good momentum going into the next year. Unless you're Xavier. And then you win the NIT and you do nothing with it the following year. Although they went to the Sweet 16 the next year. So, different coach, different situation. But winning the NIT never hurts. Save us, Scott. It's Scott Satterfield time. And I know our guy Ron, who's out in Scottsdale, Arizona right now, is like, God, Wes, no! Scott Satterfield sucks. The football team's horrible. That's what we're dealing with right now. It's time for Scott Satterfield to save us. Your thoughts on the football team? Spring football. Are you getting excited yet? This basketball season has come and gone.
I mean, I see Sorsby from Indiana. I just see him throw a spiral, like an 8-yard out. And I go, I see it. I see it. I see the potential. So it can only go up, right, from what we saw last year. It's hilarious that me and you had a podcast about after we beat Pittsburgh. We're like, I think this team might finish at the top of the Big 12. And we proceeded to lose like the next 9 games. Listen, it's yet to be seen, right? I'm not going to do anything until we're in the heart of Big 12 play. It can only go up from here. I think Sorsby is a much better quarterback than Emory Jones. So hopefully we can get something. I mean, just put the program in the right trajectory. We were in the damn playoff a couple years ago. So let's hope we put it on the right track. That's all I'll say there.
We got people sneaking into the studio tonight. We're going to finish this thing up and say that now's the time to tell you about the Chatter. If you haven't joined the Chatter yet, do so. Subscribe to the Chatter podcast. You may not be hearing from Chuck and Houdini for a little bit. We will do the NIT shows, and we will get you some shows to get ready for football, obviously, when the Bearcats have some news in the portal. Look, we're here to entertain, but most importantly to inform. So if there's something to inform you on, we are going to do that, whether it's the summer or not, whether it's just me, whether it's just Houdini, whether it's the both of us, whatever it may be. We're going to give you that information. But if you want to hear the banter, the fun stuff, it's the show The Chatter. We've had on great guests. Some of those guests you could see on this hype video. But for the last time in the regular / postseason that really matters for the Cincinnati Bearcats, unless we get a miracle, Cincinnati loses 68-56. Chuck and Houdini. Subscribe to the Chatter wherever you get your audio podcasts. It is good stuff. And we'll see you there. Spotify, Apple, Houdini, final word.
Thanks for coming out all year, the chat. It's been a pleasure to host these shows after. I wish it would have turned out a little differently, but it's been fun, man. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, throwing a little bit of banter in the chat room. It's been awesome.
Fun. It's been fun. We've seen the numbers on the podcast app triple since the start of the year. I did an Eastern Washington game on a Bengals Sunday where I was talking to one person in the chat. It was just me and one other person. And I'm pretty sure it was a staff member named Reed that was working the game. I was talking to no one. And after Kansas, we had 100 people on a live stream and a couple hundred people download the audio podcast. So it's growing. Dave Yost freed our guys. It was a fun season overall with a ton of heartbreak. The two can coincide, but we see the light at the end of the tunnel. Cincinnati's getting better. And in the meantime, the chatter, baby. The chatter with Chuck and Houdini. Here's the hype video.
We're going to miss you so much. You've done such a wonderful job. Yeah, nice job.
Why do people voluntarily choose to live here?
Let's kick this guy's ass. This guy seriously looks like a penis.
All right, when do we see you back on the air again?
What if I told you that change is inevitable? That dreams come and go? What if I told you that the past paved the way for the present?
That's not very PC. Imagine if it was a one-legged man and they're like, oh, there goes Pogo Stick.
I just waited an hour and a half for this funnel cake.
Home to the heated MySpace Top 5.
I was going to do soup, and then I realized that would make me the biggest douche on planet Earth.
Chuck did take down Miles McBride in a game of basketball.
I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give you guys that dub.
Entertaining guests only.
Are we allowed to cuss on this show? Is that okay?
You're allowed to say whatever the you want, Sean. You can say whatever you want.
I'm no GM, but give me Lorenzo Neal on a lifetime contract.
So the fullback position, I like to call it the old onion position.
They're the bad boys of broadcasting.
Instagram handicappers, we're alphas.
The take artist kings of the Midwest.
I'm not worried about the Chiefs. I'm more worried about Joe Flacco.
Telling stories.
I'm scared of the cold tub, man.
Telling tales.
What are you doing, Bob?
You cannot pull a cowboy hat off.
With a whole bunch of chatter.
Now the Halloween guys are like, I don't know what to do. They're like, get big Buzz Lightyear with rock hard.
The chatterheads have spoken.
You guys are awesome. To be on this podcast, fun. I'll do this anytime. I love this, man.